be smart, be safe. But I thought we got a good work day in. I mean, our guys came back, and we got a chance yesterday to watch the film. Really evaluate, where we were, after a pretty good stretch, a pretty good 4-day stretch. We have some movement on depth charts. We got guys that we're looking at in different positions in different places. Excited about the competition we have and some of the depth that's starting to emerge. We've got to see, a lot more consistency. You guys are going to have to capitalize on this week. This is a critical week for our program, and just you're taking the next step for the individual player and their overall execution of what they're being asked to do, and just that the competitive spirit and mindset as you get into the second week of camp, when your bodies start to get sore. You probably get irritable in a lot of different other ways, and but for us just to maintain control of what we're doing, make sure that we're understanding situations, we're able to apply the lessons that we're learning in the meeting room, and for it to show up on the field. And I thought today we got some good situational work. I thought our guys, they came out and they competed, and it's one thing I've really been pleased with throughout this fall camp is that there hasn't been a lack of competition, and we just have to make sure that the execution part of it is more consistent in what we're doing. But I like the strides that I'm seeing, and these guys are continuing the battle.
All right, first question will be Chris E. from Noles.
Good afternoon, Coach. Was wondering, when you went back and watched the film specifically of the scrimmage, was there anything that popped out to you or jumped out to you that maybe you didn't realize in real time on Saturday evening?
Hey, going back on just watching certain positions, I thought that different guys performed really well. I mean, two guys that really stood out to me were Kalen DeLoach and DJ Lundy at linebacker. I mean, both were very active. I mean, you take that not just from the scrimmage, but what they've done in the body of work in the first week. You're seeing those guys really starting to separate themselves and how they're emerging as players. Both guys that are still young, but they're taking the most of their opportunities, and I really like what I'm seeing there. I think the explosive plays offensively that showed up, I mean, that was good. I mean, there was times that we were able to push the ball down the field, and something that throughout practice, I mean, it's been hit and miss, but I thought there were some good opportunities there. Really trying to work to establish the run game. I think those guys have they're buying into who we are and the identity we're trying to form. Defensively, we still had our explosive plays. We talked about that right after. There were some times where we didn't communicate as well as we needed to, or probably didn't use the proper techniques of what needed to show up in the moment that allowed some of the bigger plays. But I think our guys, like I said, it wasn't from a lack of effort and competitive spirit. I mean, our guys, I thought they really they battled. It felt like football, and there's been times in the last year and a half where it hasn't, and it's good to see our guys really responding and pushing themselves throughout this camp and scrimmage the other night.
Next will be Kara from Warchant.
Going back to the spring, Adam talked about Kalen, the way he kind of was coming on after maybe a up and down last fall. What does he bring at that position? What does he give you guys that maybe could help the overall defense?
I think you said Kalen.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. Kalen is he's nicknamed Speedy. I mean, he plays fast, and you see, he's not the biggest linebacker in the world, but a guy that can really fly around. We made the transition in the spring to move him inside, and he is playing with the physicality, with the speed. He's got a knack for being able to find the ball in tight spaces, and that's where he's utilizing his explosiveness and his speed at a high level. And you really see the confidence of the player starting to emerge. And he was a guy that last fall we were really excited about. Kind of went into the season, had some ups and downs, and the thing that I was so proud of is just how he responded in the spring, how he's worked in the off-season program. A year ago, there were times that he would jump on him pretty good in the summer training, and then this year, I mean, you see a confident player. I mean, the body language, the mindset, the approach. He's made some great open field plays, and he's also battling in the box. So it's been really good to see.
Perry from Tomahawk Nation.
But you mentioned that execution, and then one of the things that you've done in this fall camp has been compare film from last year with this year. Were there some kind of things that clicked for players on film after looking at the scrimmage?
Absolutely, and that's one of the keys. I think I was asked the other day, what I'm hopeful to see this week is just the application of the things that we're learning in the meeting room, the experiences that we see, things that work or things that didn't work, and how can we build upon that from the scrimmage the other night. Some guys have looked really good for the first 6 days, and they got out there and there's no coaches around, and having a process to put it all together, and there's maybe took a little bit of a step back, but for us, it's just you continue to teach, you continue to instruct, and then the way the guys can take it from the meeting room to the walkthrough to the individual period, and collectively take it to team that's what's going to help continue that development and that consistency for what we need.
This will be Matt Baker from Tampa Bay Times.
Hey, Mike, after you had time to look at the scrimmage more, and then obviously what happened today, how much separation are you seeing at the top of the depth chart with the quarterback position?
I mean, I think both those guys have done a really nice job. I was, going back and watching the scrimmage. Both of them had explosive plays, moved the offense well, were productive, situationally. I mean, they did some good things, but then there were also some negatives that we just can't have. I mean, both Jordan and McKenzie, they owned the football. They didn't have a turnover in a situation, but there were still times where maybe they were a little slower to their progression of what they needed to do, and just understanding the situation of the game, and kind of how they could handle themselves a little bit better and more efficiently in that. And so what I love these guys, it didn't matter if it was in the moment, during the scrimmage, or yesterday in meetings, carrying it over to today. They want to be coached. I mean, they're not. They play ball. They both very talented. I mean, all of those guys. I mean, continuing to push Chuba, push Tate. They got to learn through those experiences and those reps as well. So, but I like what I'm seeing from that position, and we have to continue to push. But I thought those top two guys played pretty well, pretty efficient.
This will be Will from WCTV.
Hey, Coach. So Coach Dillingham mentioned the other night about how the running backs and the quarterbacks recently had a bowling match, and that Trayshawn Ward, just as an example of how competitive he is, has been asking frequently when they would rematch. Just what have you seen from him over the past few months in terms of that competitiveness that's allowed him to have some success this offseason?
Sounds like he's not a real good bowler if they lost. So, I'm sure he's excited about getting another opportunity. But, Trayshawn he's an ultimate competitor. The guy started here as a walk-on. As we got to watch him grow and develop, I mean, he changed our recruiting thoughts a year ago, because he's a guy that I think has a huge upside. And I've been fortunate to be around a lot of really good backs, and Trayshawn has a skill set that I think can be really special. And I mean, just his vision, his running ability, the toughness, what he does without the ball in his hands. I'm excited about his continued growth and development. He's pushing, all those other guys. I mean, you saw, from the scrimmage the other night, I mean, those guys, they're a competitive group. They absolutely care about each other. And, I thought they all did a really nice job with what they were asked to do in the run game. And, it's definitely a competitive group.
All right, next will be Kurt Weiler from Tallahassee Democrat.
Going back to the quarterbacks, is that something where you kind of have a date where you like to kind of know who the starter is going to be, or is it when one guy separates from kind of the pack?
Yeah, I don't get too much into, trying to circle a date. I just want to be right. And at the end of the day, these guys are going to compete. I truly believe that they both can help us win football games. And, but at the end of the day, whoever's most consistent in helping do that, playing and play out, will be the guy. And we're excited about the group. Like I said, still seeing strides from the younger quarterbacks, and so that competition is going to continue on. And when we know, we'll know.
We'll go back to Ira.
You mentioned guys working at different positions. One guy that's bounced around a lot throughout his career is Akeem Dent. I was wondering, is he kind of focusing more on one position now, and how's he been looking?
Absolutely, moved Akeem to free safety, and it was the absolute right move. I mean, he is playing playing at a very high level. And I would say through the first week, his guy is really emerging as a top level guy, and we're going to continue to help him just in the repetitions of what he's doing. But he had a forced fumble the other day, and that was the thing. You go from corner to safety. Just the different ways that you were plugged into run fits and things you're being asked to do. But Akeem sees the field really well, and that's what he brings in his ability and coverage, plus the way he's been impacting in the run game. I mean, I'm excited about what we're seeing. That continue to adds to that competition there at the safety spot, and he's definitely a big guy that helps us.
Go back to Ira.
Following up on that, he was a guy that I know you weren't here when he signed originally, but came out of high school with a ton of fanfare, very highly decorated. Hasn't had maybe quite the success he might have expected the first couple of years. But what's his attitude been like since you guys have been here in terms of approaching the work and all that?
Yeah, I mean, he's really matured a lot, and that's something that coming in. I really wasn't aware of what guys' recruiting accolades were. So and for me, it was nice just coming in to seeing them where they were. And the thing that I've appreciated about Akeem is through challenge and through some adversity. I think it's a secret. He struggled last year, and there's some things that we would have his flash plays, but as we went into the spring, you saw his body developing. You saw the work that he was putting in, and sometimes when things don't go their way with all the acclaim that they had, maybe coming into the program, it's really hard. But Akeem is just focused in. He's went to work. He's continued to grow, continue to develop, and I think he's got an incredible future in front of him. And I'm definitely glad that I get the opportunity to coach him, and just the way that he's embraced that. And I think that's why we're seeing the major steps that he's taking right now.
Go back to Chris.
With a need of some of the young wide receivers helping you guys immediately, how has that bunch as a whole done with daily consistency in the sense of, following, for example, Malik McLean had a great scrimmage. How did he do following that up with the next day of practice today?
Yeah, I mean, and that continuing to work that consistency. I mean, Malik and Josh are both guys that are going to help us this year. I don't think they're on the fast track. We've got a really, young group of receivers that Darion Williamson is emerging. I mean, you see guys that I think Pokey Wilson, he was back out and available today. Keyshawn Helton, he had an unbelievable scrimmage. The addition of Andrew Parchment, it's exciting. And Kentron, Kentron has had this last probably 4 days, has had explosive play every day. Had a couple more in today's practice, and so what I'm excited about is that we call a drop back pass. We can actually throw and catch, and it's good to see. And guys are, you're seeing development, you're seeing growth. That was a big thing in the scrimmage the other night. As we got going, the efficiency and being able to throw the football, it just helps everything out. And we always know we have a mindset of being able to establish a run, but you can do that. It's exciting, and I thought that. And I know we've talked about with just the O-line and the protection and the things that we're asking them to do, and they're getting better. And throwing a lot at them from the different looks, but they're continuing to grow, develop, and I think it's all heading in the right direction. But like I said, that consistency is important, and these guys are definitely working hard at it.
Next will be Aslan from Warchant.
Hey, Coach, with how you're having to manage the health on the offensive line, and you got some guys at the receiving position that you're trying to figure out where they fit into it, how much is that affecting, I guess, your timeline, your evaluation of the quarterbacks? And is it uncommon or common to be in this sort of position in the preseason and maybe not have a firm grasp of who you think your 11 are going to be?
No, it's pretty common, actually. There's always you go through fall camp, and there's going to be times that guys get, bumps and bruises, or a couple of guys' cases that we're trying to manage the workload just as they're coming off of different injuries, and but that's what the season's going to look like. We can all sit around and hope and pray that we stay healthy and we have the same 11 for the entire time. But that's and especially with what we do, the different personnel groupings and the multiplicity of variations that we can show personnel-wise, but. I think it doesn't affect the quarterbacks too much. I think sometimes when you get to the, maybe the third group and you're deep into your depth, that's where you see it. And we've had a couple guys out where it's even kind of got in the second group a little bit. But we try to get a good evaluation with all guys involved at once, and it's just part of the game.
All right, we're gonna go two more. We'll go back to Perry.
As far as the defensive line group is going, are you seeing that consistency from below the most common names? Are you seeing that depth that you would like to see at this point in the season?
You know, they're the guys that are definitely working hard to emerge into that group. You know, Jarrett Jackson is I think is an X factor for our defensive line. He has to play well, and you know, you kind of have a sense of you know, Fabian. I think Dennis Brave's playing at a really high level. Coming out of the scrimmage, I thought he played really, really well. I mean, and just what he did. You know, Robert Cooper's played a lot of football here. You know, he's continuing to push. But then you got Jarrett Jackson, Malcolm Ray. You know, guys that, you know, Josh Farmer is going to play this year. I mean, he's, you know, he's still figuring it out. I mean, but a guy that's come in and, you know, he's an explosive player, and I'm excited about what he brings. And so, you know, those guys that are in the depth a little bit, they just have to continue to work. And you know, a guy like Josh that, you know, played defensive end in high school, but has come in with a level of toughness and athleticism that, you know, I'm excited what he can bring. But I think Jarrett, you know, is a guy that has to step up, just the consistency of his play. And if he does, I mean, it's a really talented young man that can help us.
All right, Ira, this is the last one.
Kind of piggybacking what Aslan was asking about with the, you know, finding 11 guys on defense. Is it more about finding 11 guys and then just subbing them when they're tired, or is it getting everybody who can help in different ways, opportunities to help in different ways?
No, I mean, we got to play winning football, and so it's. If there's a distinct difference in production and what guys are doing, how they're doing it, you know, obviously everybody's got different body types and different you know, playing styles. So we could have 11 that could stay out there and play at a late level, and we're pushed to have 11. That's not real. When you look at defensive front, I mean, you're going to have depth, you know, whether it's 3 to 4 defensive ends, whether it's, you know 3 to 4, 5 defensive tackles, you know, linebacker position. You know, we're multiple in our personnel grouping, so we're gonna push that. But you know, you're probably going to see a group or core rotation of that. But you know, at the end of the day, I mean, we've got to play winning football. I'm not into just playing guys to say that they got in the game, but if there's a distinct, you know, skill set that they bring, and you know, even with some young guys, I know we mentioned, you know, Cheyenne Brown the other day, and you know, he was the guy that really flashed. Darius McKnight really flashed the other night. I think, I mean, they're coming on, and we got to find a role for them to be able to help impact this team. But you know, what that looks like is really depending on how consistent they can put it on film here in the next couple of weeks. And so those are things that's fun as a coach to try to position that as best as we can. But you know, be interesting to see.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you, guys.
Recording stopped.